Hey guys, this is Coach Mike Ryan here, and want to talk to you today about creating variation in your batting practice and a really simple way to create variation, which will create more focus, which will actually make your players more adjustable. And it's super simple. First off, every 5 to 7 swings maximum, you want to change something about the environment. Something. And in this case, we're talking about today is bat variation. So one of the things I always hear about is what bat should I use? What bat should I use? And players start using a bat, for example, all off season long. They have their wood bat, they have their BB core bat, or whatever it is. And they're kind of married to that bat. Well, understand how the body works. Once the body has swung that bat enough, right, the brain starts to adapt to that bat, and therefore everything starts to become stale. And you kind of start to go on autopilot with that bat. And what we know is when you start to go on autopilot and you just get used to something, that's definitely not where growth happens. Improvement does not happen there. The idea is to create a feeling of being uncomfortable in a sense. So one of the easiest ways you can create natural adjustments is by variation of bats often. And what I would say is maximum 5 to 7 swings. You could certainly go less. So here's an example of a routine that you could follow. So first of all, there's not a lot of rules in bat variation, but I would suggest is try to be 2 to 3 inches longer and 2 to 3 inches, or I'm sorry, 2 to 3 inches longer or 2 to 3 ounces heavier on your bat in terms of when you go up in weight. And then when you go down in weight and length, be 2 to 3 inches shorter and or 2 to 3 ounces lighter. Okay, so you can go longer, you can go shorter, you can go heavier, you can go lighter. Okay, so and of course you can do the combination. So that, for example, means if I had a high school player swinging a 32-inch bat normally, what he would do is he would take his first round, for example, with a 34-inch bat. And he would take no more than 5 to 7 swings with a 34-inch bat. Then he could then pick up another bat. For example, one way to do it is to go back to your normal bat. And you take up to 5 to 7 swings with your normal bat in that case as well. The next round, you go to your lighter and or shorter bat, which is 2 to 3 inches shorter and or 2 to 3 inches, 2 to 3 ounces lighter. Take a round with that bat, and then you can go back to your regular bat. Now, what does this do? Well, number one, every time you pick up a different bat, especially with different lengths and weight, it creates a problem. So if you're taking batting practice and you pick up, say, a bat that's 2 inches longer, the problem that the hitter has to solve is now it's going to take a little bit more to get that bat around, to get the bat head out in front, to be on time with that swing. So it creates a problem. The fact that you're only going, say, 5 swings with it means that he pretty much has to figure out how to adjust his swing pretty quickly because you're only giving him a few swings. And of course, you could do less as well, meaning less swings. So it instinctively, the hitter has to learn how to adjust. Now, when he goes to the shorter bat, and let's say he goes to a 2-inch shorter bat. So the guy who normally uses a 32-inch bat is now at a 30. Now that proposes a problem for tracking the ball longer, waiting for the ball longer, and he has to adjust not hitting balls towards the end of his barrel. He's really got to stay in, track the ball better, and that is going to create another problem. So, and the idea here is, and some of you may be out there thinking, well, like if I did that and I changed my bats every 5 swings, my son would start to struggle, or my student would start to struggle. And I would say, of course, absolutely you would. And that's kind of the point. And the point is to make your practice a little bit harder in order to make the game easier. And I want you to think about this. When you put something a little bit longer in his hand and you let him struggle a little bit until he figures it out, or put something a little bit shorter in his hand, let him struggle a little bit until he figures it out, and then you mix in your normal bats, what you have there is adjustability in the making, and a really powerful adjustability because the hitter isn't thinking about how to make the adjustment mechanically. He's going by the feel of making an adjustment, which, in my opinion, prepares the hitter better for the game. And what I mean by that is, in a game, you don't want to go to the plate thinking about your hands and your wrist and your mechanics, right? But you do want to make adjustments almost pitch to pitch, right? You have to adjust. Man, I just missed that pitch. I was just under that pitch. I was just over that pitch. I was just early. I was just late. So what this constant variation of bat training is doing in even a normal round of batting practice is really simply, it's forcing the hitter to make quick adjustments, which is exactly what needs to happen in a game. And the outline I laid out here for you, going, say, 2 inches longer, 2 inches shorter, then going to regular bat, that's really just the tip of the iceberg in a sense of what you can do with this. There's nothing to say that nothing wrong that you could say, oh, I'm going to go anywhere from 1 to 2 inches longer and 1 to 2 inches lighter, meaning every 4 or 5 swings, this kid's picking up a bat. Say if he normally swings a 32, maybe he goes to a 34, then he goes down to a 30, then he comes back up to a 33, goes back down to a 31, and then comes back to his regular bat. There's no I like to say there's no rules about it. That's a beautiful thing, where the hitter is kind of being shocked. Now, general rule of thumb, we always want to go back to what the regular feel is, the regular bat. We do want to go back to that. So we don't want to just get caught up in using a bunch of different bats. We want to get the bat that is close to what he's going to use in a game, so he gets back to that feel as well. So really simple. If you're going to train adjustments, and really I should point out the last thing, you're also really reinforcing more focus in your practice. We talk about how focus practice or deliberate practice is much more powerful than regular practice. Well, what a better way to get your hitters more focused than they normally are by changing the environment every, say, 5 swings. And again, it could be less. You could get to a point where you're switching to bat every 1 swing at that point. I wouldn't start there, but a good way to start maybe is changing bats every 5 to 7 swings and then work your way back down. But again, every time that different implement goes in his hand, the focus on what he's trying to do, he's going to focus a little bit more because it presents a different challenge. So this is just an example of a way to make your batting practice harder, right? To actually have a hitter work on making adjustments without thinking internally about his technique and his mechanics, for it to happen instinctively, which then, in my opinion, prepares you better for the game when you have to constantly learn how to adjust. The great ones are great adjusters. Now you've trained over and over and over again how to make an adjustment, and now when the game comes, you're a little bit better at making adjustments. And as I tell our guys all the time, I haven't met too many coaches in my life that are really patient with players making adjustments. The guys who typically play are the guys who make quicker adjustments. The guys who are really slow to adjust oftentimes get replaced. Their playing time goes down because the coach is going to make an adjustment and he's going to replace you with somebody who is hitting, as opposed to if you're having trouble figuring something out. If you have any questions about this, you can always shoot me an email at fastballusa@hotmail.com. Of course, check out our website, fastballusa.com as well.